The social media influencer is a big fan of the US president. In Romania, a month
we live in a
ago,
democratic society where it's any citizen will prove guilty, and I think my brother and I are large.
At what state hooks and jurisdiction
the charges were authorized last year and arrest warrants were reported. This is the first time the Crown Prosecution Service has confirmed these charges. The warrant issued by Bedfordshire Police for the siblings dates back.
Okay,
Tristan, anything to say?
Now look, before we get into anything else, you need to understand this just went from internet drama to federal business. Andrew Tate is back behind bars, and this time it's tied to the Trump administration allegedly leaning on Romania to get his travel ban lifted in the first place. The charges on the table right now are not small. We're talking language like rape, trafficking, exploitation, the kind of case where, if it goes the wrong way for him in court, people are already throwing around the words life sentence. Here's some background for anybody just catching up. The UK's had a warrant out on Andrew Tate for over a year at this point, stacked with more than 20 counts when it first dropped. And for a long stretch, he just didn't get touched. Living out of Dubai, bouncing to the US, chartering private jets specifically so his plane never had to touch down in Europe where he could actually get picked up. That's not paranoia, that's a strategy. And it worked for a while.
The brothers Andrew and Tristan Tate have been charged with serious crimes including human trafficking in the UK. Although the charges were authorized last year and arrest warrants were reported, this is the first time the Crown Prosecution Service has confirmed these charges. The warrant issued by Bedfordshire Police for the siblings dates back to between 2012 and 15, when the alleged crimes were said to have taken place. According to reports, Andrew Tate faced 10 charges related to 3 women, including actual bodily harm, human trafficking, and controlling prostitution for gain. While his brother, Tristan Tate, faces charges related to 1 woman, including human trafficking and bodily.
So let's break down how he even got this room to move in the first place. Back when this was still a Romanian case, a court there agreed in principle that the UK could eventually extradite him, but only after Romania finished its own case first. So everything got put on ice. He did a stretch in custody, got released while the investigation kept grinding, and the actual indictment never fully closed out. Instead of the case getting dropped, it just sat there in limbo. And here's the part that matters. While all that was pending, his travel restrictions got lifted. He wasn't cleared, he wasn't free of it, he was just technically allowed to move again. And that loophole is exactly how he went from Romania to Dubai, to bouncing between Dubai and the United States like none of this was hanging over his head. And this is where it gets messy, because on paper, none of this makes sense. The US and UK have an extradition treaty. If you're wanted over there, the last place you'd want to be sitting is here, where that process can move fast. But Tate wasn't hiding, he was living loud. Word got around he dropped $15 million on a penthouse in Miami, and a lot of people online connected that straight back to his relationship with Trump. The claim floating around, and I want to be clear, this is still framed as reporting and speculation. Not a confirmed fact is that the Trump administration pushed Romanian officials to lift his travel ban so he could get to the US, and some accounts even suggest they helped set up the actual trip. None of that's locked down, but that's exactly why this blew up the way it did. People aren't just watching the legal side, they're watching the politics of it, who made a call, who owed who a favor, why a guy facing this many allegations was living this comfortably. Supporters are calling it proof he's always a step ahead. Critics are calling it a look that doesn't sit right no matter how you spin it. Either way, this stopped being just a courtroom story a long time ago.
After a long flight from Romania, Andrew Tate was as combative as ever.
We live in a democratic society where it's any citizen will prove guilty, and I think my brother and I are largely misunderstood. There's a lot of opinions about us, a lot of things that go around about us on the internet.
Did Donald Trump help get the travel ban lifted?
The social media influencer is a big fan of the US president. In Romania a month ago, this was his message to his millions of internet followers.
Donald Trump is the future of the Western world. Everybody knows it, and everybody needs to get in line and obey him. He runs the world, and he's a good friend of mine, and I'm going to help him.
And that Trump pressure claim we just talked about, it's the same thing being repeated here, and Tate's own words don't exactly help him distance himself from it. And listen, I've watched rappers do the exact same dance when a pardon's on the table. NBA YoungBoy, Kodak Black both got real clemency out of a Trump administration, and both made sure their loyalty was loud and public before it happened. So, am I saying Tate's playing the same game? I'm saying, if you believe someone might be the reason you're not sitting in a cell, buttering them up publicly isn't exactly shocking behavior. That's just how the game gets played when your freedom's on the line. And Tate looked comfortable with it. He's setting up shop in the US. There's talk he was scouting property in New York. People spotted him out in Harlem just moving through the city like it was nothing. From the outside, it looked like he genuinely believed he was covered. And then, today, that comfort ran out. US Marshals reportedly came and took him into custody. And now we're looking at this as a real step toward getting him back to the UK.
Mr. Tate, would you mind signing? Tate.
Come back. Oh, shit. No. Come over here by me. Let's go.
Now, once that footage hit, the internet did what the internet does. Everybody started pointing fingers at DeSantis. And honestly, it wasn't a totally wild guess, because DeSantis had already put Tate on notice before this, basically saying if he stuck around Florida, the state was going to look into it. So when this arrest happened, a lot of people assumed DeSantis pulled a string somewhere. Fair or not, that's the theory that spread. And people online were asking a real question too. How does a US citizen get told he's not welcome in a specific state, especially one he reportedly got help flying into? So naturally, when DeSantis stepped up to a podium the moment this news broke, people were watching closely to see if he'd own it.
No involvement in that. I read about it through the media. Clearly, the federal government has jurisdiction, whether they want to rebuff his entry into the United States, and I have confidence that whether it's Pam Bondi or Kristi Noem, that they will be looking at that. I do know our Attorney General, James Uthmeyer, is looking at what state hooks and jurisdiction we may have to be able to deal with this. But the reality is no, Florida is not a place where you're welcome with that type of conduct in the air. And I don't know how it came to this. We were not involved. We were not notified. I found out through the media that this was something that was happening. Okay, guys, thanks so much. God bless everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks.
As for Ron, I'm a little bit disappointed, I'll be honest. I've never said anything bad about him. I didn't know much about him. I was a fan of his. I heard that Florida was a great state. I know he did well under COVID. I knew nothing about the guy. But it turns out when he was pressured, he instantly caved to the pressure. And we have to have a long conversation about why the liberals and why Soros and why these wrap-up smears, why they use the media to do what they do. Because what they try and do is isolate somebody. So people are afraid to represent them or stand by them or stick up for due process. I don't know why Ron's answer wasn't, he has an American passport. The judicial system in Romania, which I know absolutely nothing about, decided to let him fly, and he's flown to his home country. As far as we're concerned, he's broken no laws. Instead, what he did was say, we're going to get our attorney general to try and find some laws he's broken and wreck this man who's done nothing inside of the United States ever. Isn't the whole point of democracy innocent until proven guilty? I've yet to even have a trial, let alone a conviction. I've never even been tried.
Now, once that clip made the rounds, people online weren't holding back. A lot of folks were calling DeSantis petty for the way he handled it. Some of the jokes going around about him online got personal, and I'm not going to repeat all of that here since none of it's confirmed. It's just internet noise. But the reaction was real, even if some of the jabs weren't fair. But here's the correction that actually matters. This wasn't DeSantis. However you feel about him, the arrest itself came from the US Marshals, which means this is a federal move, not a state one. That's a different level entirely, and it changes how serious this actually is.
Back up. What's going on? Back up. You guys back up. Look. Thanks. Yeah, that's just getting it.
Card.
You know who's source this is? Yes. I know you able to pull it up some too. Let's gotta get it. Look at it. Yes, well.
Okay, now hold on.
Tristan, anything to say?
I'm just seeing it go home. The next and you could all know. Find a man unfound.
They got the back up. Back up. Back up.
And that's where the online theories start stacking up. A lot of people are saying there's no way this arrest happens without sign-off from the top, all the way up to Trump himself. That's the framing going around, not a confirmed fact. And people do have a point about the timeline. Tate had basically been left alone for about a year. You don't go from ignoring an extradition situation to letting the guy live it up in Miami and New York, and then flip the switch overnight for no reason. Something shifted. And with a guy this visible driving a $15 million penthouse narrative online, it's not like anybody lost track of where he was. Then the Crown Prosecution Service actually put numbers to this. According to their statement, Andrew Tate is facing multiple counts tied to misconduct allegations, several more connected to arranging or facilitating exploitation, more involving alleged bodily harm, and a separate set of charges connected to indecent images of a minor. Tristan's charges are separate and lower in count, but still, serious misconduct, exploitation-related charges of his own. And this is the part people can't stop talking about, because once the CPS put those specific allegations back out there, the whole conversation changed. This stopped being a story about flights and political favors, and turned into something people had to actually sit with. That's usually the moment where the jokes online quiet down, because the seriousness of it gets harder to look past. At the same time, the reaction only got louder, because people are remembering how freely he was moving around while all of this was reportedly already sitting on the table. So now everybody's asking the same thing: who knew what and when? None of that's officially confirmed the way it's being framed online, but that hasn't slowed the speculation down one bit. What makes it hit different is the contrast. 1 minute it's bold interviews and penthouse talk, next minute it's a federal arrest. That shift is exactly why this turned into more than just another headline. Hold on though, because this next part is different from everything we just covered. What I'm about to get into isn't old news repackaged. If this holds up, it's on a completely different level. For a long time, Tate's whole defense was simple. No proof. People lying on him, calling the entire thing a setup. But if any of what's being alleged here holds up in court, that defense gets a lot harder to lean on. Now, I want to be careful with how I say this, because this is the part of the story that actually matters more than any of the political back and forth. According to the CPS's own language, part of the case against Andrew specifically involves charges connected to indecent images of a minor. In the UK, the age of consent is 16. So when that specific charge gets used, that's the line being referenced. I'm not going to speculate beyond what's actually been stated, and honestly, neither should anyone else right now. This is exactly the kind of allegation where you let the courts do their job before drawing conclusions either way. If it's proven, this becomes one of the biggest falls from grace we've covered on this channel, period. If it's not, then the backlash he's already facing online will have been part of a much bigger, uglier legal fight either way. What I will say is this protection from powerful friends tends to run out fast. The second allegations get this specific, even people who were quietly in his corner before are going to have a hard time standing next to this one. So let me know where you land on this down in the comments. And if you want the next part of this story, the video on your screen right now breaks down how Tate University reportedly got exposed from the inside.